Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is just going to be kind of informative and kind of a little bit of a story time. Whenever Nick and I were going through the situation that I'm about to tell you guys about, this is kind of what we did. We looked at YouTube videos trying to see other people's experiences and what they were doing about the situation, how they were getting through it and stuff like that. So I thought, why sit around with information when you could share it with others and kind of share your experience to maybe help someone else that could be going through the same situation that we went through. So today is March 22nd, 2017, and it is the 5-year anniversary of when we had an abortion for our daughter Natalie. Ugh, I don't like saying it like that, and I don't even like that word. I was in the Army. We were married. We had just gotten married in October, and we found out we were pregnant probably about like 2 months after. So at this point in March, I was about 4 months pregnant. Right at 4 months pregnant. And we went in for a gender ultrasound to see if we were having a boy or a girl, and we found out we were having a girl, and we already had chosen her name. We were going to name her Natalie Elizabeth because I was supposed to pass my middle name on to my daughter because I got named after my grandmother. We found out she was a girl. I remember it being so exciting. Nick went tried to drive straight to the PX to buy something girly because he was just so excited. I unfortunately had to go straight back to work, but we were just really excited. We got a phone call that we needed to go back to the hospital. So I called Nick, and we both met each other back up at the hospital, and you could tell just something was definitely wrong. It was just very obvious. We went straight to the doctor's room, her own like little office. So she sat us down, and she pretty much told us that Natalie had anencephaly. Anencephaly is where your brain stops to form like above the eyebrows. Like, so from here up, there's nothing. In our case, she was not thriving on her own at all. She was completely and solely living off of me. So pretty much if she was born or as soon as she was delivered, she would not have made it because on her own she was not surviving inside me. There's no movement from her at all. On the ultrasounds it would kind of look like she was moving, but it was really just from the pressure of them, using the little wand on your stomach to try to get an image. But there was a heartbeat, but that was it. And yes, I know that's a huge deal, but you can't live without a brain, and she had no brain at all. So we were pretty much told we had till Thursday, I think this was a Tuesday that we had that doctor appointment, that we needed to decide what we were going to do. My doctor highly recommended me that I have an abortion. She said if it was not in a military hospital, she would have emergency terminated me, but because we were at an Army hospital, in their regulations, they can't do that, and you can't really just walk into some civilian hospital that far into a pregnancy and just have an emergency termination either. So our choice was to continue on with the pregnancy or have an abortion. At this point, my body was failing. I looked so much bigger than I was supposed to be. My body was retaining so much extra fluid, and I just was not doing well, as I should be. So we called all of our friends. Nick called his old pastor. We asked for guidance. We asked for prayers mainly. We just didn't know the right answer. We chose to have an abortion. And it was the hardest decision that we've ever had to make. It's not something I'm proud of but it's just what we had to do. The state we lived in at the time, Kansas, did not, they had just passed their abortion law, so you couldn't have an abortion in that state. So Nick and I went the next day over, and it was like a 2-day procedure, kind of. I went in one day, they did one part, and then the next day they did the actual abortion. We went to at least just within from that Monday or Tuesday of finding out till the Thursday of having the procedure done. We went to 3 other specialty doctors to be 100% sure and get confirmation that in fact Natalie had anencephaly. Every doctor we went to confirmed she did have anencephaly. They all could see it. Even going back now and seeing her old ultrasounds, like, you can see it. But being new parents, we had no idea what to look for. We were just excited, and like, I didn't think it looked any different because that's the only one I'd ever seen. But they all confirmed that she had anencephaly. Ultimately, Nick and I decided to go with the abortion. The hardest decision we have ever made in our life. Sitting in the abortion clinic was hard. Sitting face to face with other people that probably for the most part were getting it done, maybe because they got pregnant at a young age and didn't think they could take care of a child, or whatever the case may be. Like, I remember just feeling a lot of anger in my heart because I would have given anything to be in what I thought that person's position was. But honestly, I had no idea what their position was, and to be honest, they could have been looking at me the exact same way. They could have had some terrible thing happen to them. They could have been a rape victim. They could have had something going on in their lives. Their health could have been failing similar to mine, and that could have been their choice. And as much as I was sitting there looking at that person in anger, that they could possibly be aborting their child just because they didn't feel like they could take care of it, that same person could have been looking me straight in the eyes thinking the same thing about me. This whole situation, though, has just been... It was hard. The month after the whole situation, right after the procedure, I had to go back into work and sign out on leave. And I remember a lot of my NCOs saying, "Oh man, where'd the belly go? It just went away," and like kind of making jokes with at me and stuff. And I just remember breaking down and bawling in the parking lot by the time I got back to the car after signing out on leave, because it just hurt me so much because they didn't know it wasn't their fault. They didn't know what I had just gone through. They didn't know. Just like that morning when I had to go in before going to my appointment and them rubbing my belly and just talking about me having a baby, like I couldn't even come to talking about it because it was a very personal, private decision, and it was a hard decision. I got to sign off on my maternity leave, which I hated that. I was angry that I was on maternity leave with no baby. I just had a lot of anger. I was very depressed. I was very hurt. I was in a very terrible spot for a while, and for about a month after, that the month of maternity, Nick and I honestly lived in the living room on an air mattress and just stayed there together. And that's probably when we became the closest, strongest that our relationship has ever been. Everyone mourns differently, and I definitely think that's a huge deal. And if you're going through something like this, or just anything at all, that's a big thing you have to consider. After the whole procedure with Natalie, we got a copy of her footprints. And at one point I was like, oh, I really want to display these in the house somewhere, it's special to me, that's our daughter. Like, I don't care what the situation was or how it happened, she was still our daughter and we still loved her. We loved her so much. And I was like, we could display them around the house, I could have it somewhere so I see it every day, like that'd be so nice. But what I didn't think about was like, how would that affect Nick, you know what I mean? We obviously experienced it and mourned it in 2 different ways. It was probably a little harder for me. Not harder, but like I held the baby and I went through the actual procedure and had a lot more physical hurt, obviously. So I think certain parts were a lot easier for him to get through faster, but we still experienced things together, but at the same time differently, if that makes sense. So if you're ever going through something like that, that's a huge thing to just think about. Think about each other. And I don't display her footprints around the house because I think it's something we really needed to eventually move on from, because there was a long time where I didn't think we were going to. Like, your life sucks so bad for a few months after it happened that I never thought we would have moved past it. And I feel like seeing it every day was kind of made it a little harder to get past it. So yes, we still have our footprints, and yes, we keep it in a special place, but it's a special place for me and Nick and not for everyone. Also, you get medicine right after the procedure, and it's supposed to help with the bleeding, but for me it had just a reverse effect, and it made it so I could not feel my legs. And I called the doctor about 3 times. As you can imagine, doctors that do those kind of procedures, they're not the most like, you know, call us if you need something after, you know. So I didn't have anyone to really go to doctor-wise to help with any of the pain or anything afterwards. And I had to stop taking the medicine because it made me completely paralyzed from my waist down. I could not feel my legs at all. So I bled for probably a good 2 months after the procedure, just continually like being on a really heavy period for 2 months after the procedure. So, and that was really hard too, because it was just like another reminder. My milk actually came in, and that was so hard. I wasn't expecting it at all. And I remember going home, and like 2 days later I just was leaking, and I wasn't prepared. You know, I didn't have any kind of pads for my bra or anything, because that's not something I even thought about, you know. I just thought, you know, okay, you know, we did this, we went through with it, you know, we're not gonna have a baby, and we just have to get through it. But then like having your milk come in and the continual bleeding was really just a slap in the face, honestly, and made it really hard to try to be strong. I went back to work after, you know, the maternity leave, and people went straight back to asking questions like, where's the baby, how's the baby doing? And I just remember I would go to my car and cry, or just, you know, try not to make a huge scene and just keep it to myself, because it was really hard and not something I could talk about so early on. You do have to pay for the procedure out of pocket. Luckily we have an amazing family friend that didn't think we deserved that burden to hold as well, you know, paying for that to happen, and just financially, you know, to begin with. So they were so generous and paid for the procedure for us, so it wasn't something we had to continue just to hold over ourselves. And I will forever be grateful for that. We did have a balloon release for Natalie about, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and we involved our whole family. We were living in New York, but my family from Florida and Nick's family in Texas, and just all of our families sent us pictures of them doing a balloon release, and we always release green balloons because that is the color for anencephaly awareness. So this year we've decided to do that as well, and I just want to do it because we're in our forever home now, and this is where we're always going to be. And my kids, you know, I have the kids I have now. Well, she's always going to be a part of our lives. I talked to Dallas about her, and I'll talk to baby Nick about her, because I think it's important. I used to be so against abortions. If you would have asked me, it's just really one of those things that unless you're in that position, you don't know what it's going to be like. Everyone's situation is definitely different, and if you're going through this, I just want you to know that it will get better. It's going to suck for a while, but you will make it out of it, because we were in the exact same situation that you could be in right now. They told me I wouldn't be able to conceive again. They told me I shouldn't even try for a while, at least a year after the abortion. And I got pregnant with Dallas right away. If any of you are going through this situation or something similar and have more in-depth questions, I will answer them if you leave them down below. The longest child that's ever lived has been about 2 years, possibly, but they have to be resuscitated like daily, because their body just isn't able to function on its own.